What is up, guys? Welcome to episode 10 of Crave the Book. It is crazy that we have already recorded 10 episodes. Today, we're going to be talking about chapters 35 through 37 of Tracy Wolff's Crave series. And in our actual spoiler section of the podcast, we have a lot of fan theories. We uncovered a whole lot in these very, very few chapters. So let's go ahead and get started. What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 10. Today we're going to be covering chapters 35 through 37, getting ever so much closer to Grace finally learning what the hell's going on at Katmere Academy. I thought that we were going to reach it in this episode, but we decided to cut off chapters right before she figures everything out. So,
it's insinuated.
Yeah, it's just, just kinda. She learns more in these chapters though than she has in any other chapters. So, next episode for sure. But guys, in case you're listening for the very first time, first of all, we're on all platforms other than Apple Podcasts and Pandora. For some reason, they're not approving us, but we're everywhere else. And you can also watch on YouTube, and we have fun visuals to go along with the podcast. And yeah, you can also go back and watch previous episodes as well if you are finding this one for the first time. But if you are listening for the first time and maybe you haven't completed the series, there's a very specific sound that you're going to want to listen out for. Amber, do you want to tell them what that sound is?
That sound, like every other week, will be the howl of the wolf. We will play that sound whenever we have completed this week's episode of the chapters that we've covered and are about to go into spoiler territory. So if you don't want a surprise on what happens in the rest of Crave, Covet, or Crush, or Court, or any of the books following, then make sure to turn off when you hear the wolf howl.
Yes. Awesome. All right. So assuming that you want non-spoiler topics, let's go ahead and get into it. Last we left off, Grace didn't make it, which was how the last chapter ended. The window shattered. There was an earthquake while she was kissing Jackson. The window shattered. She runs away. And then the chapter ends with she didn't make it. And then surprise, she wakes up in bed.
She made it.
I always hate that. That's one thing like that.
It was all a dream.
Yeah. I always worry that, oh no, like I want to know what happened. I want the nitty gritty, but I mean, we get to learn a little bit of what happened. Because apparently the glass nicked an artery.
Uh-huh. Doesn't that sound like, oh, I fell down the stairs?
Oh, yeah.
As an excuse.
I mean, and it really did happen. Like, that is what happened. But, you understand the precision that would have to take place for broken glass to shatter in that way and then also fly with enough impact to conveniently nick an artery and not really do damage anywhere else. Like, I feel like she'd have like a piece of glass stuck in her eye or I don't know.
Yeah, it reminded me of when Bella gets back from the dance studio and
you fell down a flight of stairs.
Yeah. She's like, and fell through a window? Like, none of it really sounded realistic, but with Bella's sort of coordination, it could have quite easily happened. And that's how her mum so easily believed it. But yeah, I think it sounded so far-fetched that we were supposed to not believe it as part of the plot, was that we were supposed to feel like iffy about it.
Yeah, that's always the super normal, yeah. Grace is a super normal. The paranormal trope is weird things are happening, but then like the main character is constantly being gaslit into believing it. Mm-hmm. Like, no, you just fell. It's fine.
I had major gaslighting like vibes from this whole chapter, and it wasn't even just from like the main characters. Like Macy was really bad, and for the first time, I really did think that she was deliberately holding back things instead of actually saying to Grace, "Look, Uncle Finn's gone. I think we need to have a chat." She genuinely was trying to make the situation as confusing as possible. Like, she was doing things that she really shouldn't have done and saying things that she really shouldn't have done, when she could have just shut up and let Grace recovered and then spoken to her about it the next day.
Yeah, I mean, Finn was the same way, though. Uncle Finn was standing there basically like on the edge, like, I am sorry. And, you know, Grace, she's oblivious. She's like, no, you know, it's fine. You couldn't have controlled this. But he knows why everything's like going down. He's saying, you know, I should have given you a proper introduction. But then the nurse is like, no, it's fine. Like, the nurse is the one who cuts in and, you know, really interrupts that. So it's strange.
The timing of his apology was perfect. In the script, it is really funny because so Grace is talking about how she's embarrassed that she bled everywhere, which is a very strange thing. But she's like, oh, clearly everybody has to tidy up after my bodily juices.
Can you imagine
so
that, though?
Ew.
Like, your classmates, especially those who don't really care a whole lot about you, having to go up and clean up your blood like that.
Your arterial spray.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, I'm imagining like Dexter in his little white room, his like forensics room where he like bashes the heads and studies the blood spray. I'm like imagining this just big spray and all these kids are just up there having to clean it up. I mean, really, did they send the vampires to clean up the blood everywhere? Like, what would that do? Are they licking it up? Are they just walking around like,
no, I didn't even think about it.
Like licking the walls? The snozberries taste like snozberries.
That's grim. And speaking of, because they ask her whether she's thirsty, and then she's like, and I am thirsty. I realize I am thirsty. Like, really, really thirsty. Like, can't remember the last time I needed a drink this badly thirsty. Can I have some water? And they go, no, have some cranapple juice.
It's very specific, too.
I was so suspicious, because I was like, wait, cranapple is red, right? Because we don't have cranapple here.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it can be. It's like a lighter. I mean, it's like a lighter, kind of diluted cranberry juice.
But then she asks for another one because she enjoys it so much. And then Uncle Finn goes, oh, I'm sorry. Like, as if he's like apologizing for the fact that she's now so thirsty and has to only drink cranapple juice for the rest of her life.
I think my first read through, I was thinking, because I caught that as well, where she wants water and then they give her the juice. And somewhere in my head, I was like, did she get bit and turn into a vampire and now they're trying to feed her blood without her knowing?
Yeah, more gaslighting.
Yeah.
But now I realize that it was probably them just making sure she had enough blood sugar.
Yeah. I mean, she lost all. I mean, but well, here's the thing, okay? She drinks the crayon apple and then she immediately eats corn chowder, and then she goes down and finds Jackson on the stairs, and that whole thing probably only lasted about 10 minutes, and then she goes back upstairs and eats a bunch of cookies. Like, they're really shoveling food in her face. Like, I was thinking about the timing of everything that happened. I'm like, she just ate. Like, no judgment there, but usually when you're waking, I mean, you are pretty hungry when you wake up from being sedated. But first they're like, oh, well, let's give her some soup and see how she holds it down. But Macy's like sneaking her cookies. Like,
we also don't have corn chowder soup.
It's not that great.
Doesn't sound that great. Anything with a chowder doesn't sound that great. It sounds chalky.
It's, you know, I'm surprised that if it's Alaska, I'm surprised that it's not like a clam chowder. I feel like in Alaska,
that sounds even worse.
Clam chowder's good. It's just, I feel like Alaskan clams are kind of a thing. It's weird. They're more likely to have clams than they are corn. in Alaska. I
they get them. Do they get it from Ohio?
yeah, we ship it there. No, most of Ohio is cornfields, and none of it is to eat. It all goes to cattle. It's all feed corn, which is crazy.
Oh. Can you tell the difference?
Yeah, you can't cook corn that's meant for cows. It's too hard. You have to get it before it gets hard. So you would have had to have harvested it in like September. And then they don't harvest it until November. So right around when you come along to Ohio,
I get to see corn.
You get to see corn. It might all be cut down, or you might get to witness them cutting it down. It'll probably all be cut down by then, though. It's
highlight of my trip.
Seeing the corn. Have you never seen corn? Do they not have corn in the UK?
We just stood in a field. What is this plant? What is this yellow plant?
You have
sweet corn.
You have corn.
What is this? We'll never know. This entire trip, I'm just going to be hazing you as to what I have and what I don't have.
I feel like you are. I feel like that's going to be the whole deal. Is you're going to walk up to very like normal objects and pretend that you don't have them.
I'll brush my hair with a fork.
Oh God. So on this read through, there was another little line that I didn't think anything of the first read through, and the second one, I'm like, oh. Maurice said, after Finn kind of had his fumble and Maurice cut in, and like obviously Maurice did not want Grace to know what's going on. Like Finn acted like he was going to tell her, and for some reason the school nurse is the one who's stopping him from telling her. It's just it's weird. I wonder what control the nurse has in that situation. But she kind of butts in.
Mostly
and then
fear.
Yeah, she's like, you'll be fitting in here in no time. I'm like, what does that mean?
I just thought it was a really throwaway comment until the second read through.
Yeah, does she think that
it was like firstly it was like reassurance, like, oh, you'll be fitting in no time and don't worry about it. Not actually, you will be fitting in here in no time.
Yeah, does she think that Grace is gonna turn into something? I mean, okay, so vampires can turn vampires in this universe, right? Like, or a vampire can make a vampire. Okay, so
because they've got the born and then they've got the made.
Right. Okay, so with that being the case, Grace was bit, but there are ways to bite to not turn someone, right? Like there's a difference. Is it like Twilight where you can use venom and not use venom? Is it?
It's never discussed. I don't think the entire series, I don't think it's really ever discussed. And Grace doesn't seem to be that concerned about it when she does confront people about it.
Well, she's also immune to magic. So
maybe she would be immune to that. I mean, spoilers.
Right.
Guys, spoilers.
Little spoilers. Yeah, really, really strange. Just a strange comment that I'm still not sure how it fits in. I'm wondering if the nurse is going to come into play anywhere later. I mean, she is a vampire. She could be, I mean, because she's a school nurse, but she obviously knows more than a normal school nurse should. So maybe she has some place within like the vampire ranks that we don't know about.
I think she obviously does know a bit more about Grace than Grace knows about herself because she tried to fix her. I mean, spoilers going into the next couple of chapters, but she did try to fix her and didn't do very well. And it was because Grace was immune to magic.
Yeah.
So I think she knew that there was something different about her, but I don't think necessarily she knew what it was.
That's something that she should have like told Finn because, weird. All right. So
Grace runs out after Jackson. Jackson's really mean to her. And he says, like, you should just forget about it. Nothing happened last night, including the kiss. And Grace is really bummed out about it. And then he just jumps over a banister rail.
But he pulls Edward Cullen move.
He just poof, gone.
Yeah.
Because that's not a red flag to anybody thinking that they're not human.
Yeah, and there was another point in here that kind of ties into that. Like, okay, Macy obviously knows what Jackson is, right? And in the last bit, or the last episode, we talked about how Macy was kind of oblivious to the earthquakes. But now Macy seems to know that Jackson's causing the earthquakes. But then she says, it seems like it would have had to have been more than that in reference to the kiss. What does that mean?
I put that in my spoiler topics because I don't know why I put it in the spoiler topics, but I was like, I put Grace must be one hell of a kisser to give Jackson that much of a wobbly.
Yeah, I mean, really, like, is that what she thinks that, did she think they were doing it? Like, what did she think? It would have to be more than...
She said hooking up. She was like, were you hooking up? And I'm like,
hooking
I have a different meaning of what hooking up means?
No, like, that's what I thought too.
What does hooking up mean in Macy's mind?
Yeah. I mean, but then, well, when Grace says, no, we were just kissing. So I think that she did think that, because then she's like, oh, well, you know, earthquakes, you know, it might be like rocking the bed, except you're rocking all of Alaska, you know?
Yeah, maybe it's like proper rocking the bed frame.
Yeah.
And just accidentally crumbling the castle.
Exactly. And, you know, shattering windows and cutting arteries.
No, she is just that good of a kisser.
It's magic. Absolute magic.
I mean, every time he's had an earthquake, it's been during a very highly emotional point in his life.
How does Macy know that, though?
I don't know, but it must be magic because everyone knows that it is. I think even Finn knows. It's just not letting on.
I mean, that would be really weird. Like, you're going to school and then you have an earthquake and then you're like, oh, there's Jackson again. Like,
it's just weird. Like, everybody seems to know everything and yet also nothing. And nobody's speaking to each other about it because they're so worried about the factions intermingling.
Yeah, I still don't completely understand that, because I feel like with everything that went down with Hudson, that it would almost be necessary for them to be closer rather than be so distant. I don't feel like disposal of one bad vampire should bring everyone together, but instead it made everybody farther apart. It's a very strange dynamic. I hope that we get a little bit more, since we've got that like impending war coming up. I really hope that we get a little bit more, but I won't say any more about that because I don't want to ruin it for anyone. However, when Jackson does his little vanishing act, then of course Leah appears, because of course she does. It's like 2:30 in the morning. Of course Leah is walking around the hallways for some reason, fully dressed. She like,
a student is out of bed.
Out of bed. Yeah, it's very, you know, I have to remind myself that this is not Harry Potter and that maybe students are allowed, because I mean they are paranormal,
nocturnal.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe they are nocturnal and they want to go out. Maybe it's totally normal. But yeah.
Do you reckon like Uncle Finn has his version of the Marauders map just sat in his office where he knows everybody is?
Just watching everybody. It's a little weird, little creepy. So what struck me odd is that Leah like wanted Grace to go after Jackson at that very moment. But then when she gets Grace back to her room, she's also like being really insistent about the tea. Do you think that she was plotting at that very moment? Like, did she see that as like a moment to do some no goods?
I put in the spoiler section. I kept putting things in the spoiler section just in case, but I put Leah says, "I see you almost died. How about some more death tea to help you with recovery?" Just like she kept mentioning, "Oh, I should bring you some tea. I can bring you the tea now if you'd like. Like, are you sure I can go and I can make you some tea? I'll go make you some tea now." And I'm like, "Stop with the tea. She does not want tea."
I know, and
I was like,
even Grace is like, no, it's fine. I don't want any tea. And then she like goes and lays in bed.
2 in the morning.
Yeah, she like turns her back and like faces away.
Yeah, I was suspicious about the tea, and that's when I knew that Leah, because I knew that Leah was not up to any good, just being around 2 a.m. in the morning, wanting to give her tea. I was a bit suspicious. Anyway, so yeah, she was just full of red flags. And she didn't give her any information except for the fact that Jackson and her were destined to be married now that Hudson was out of the picture.
Yeah, and in my notes, I said I felt like that she said this just to work Grace up a little bit. Like,
oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like, because she said it so nonchalant. Like, yeah, you know, everybody thinks
and Jackson never actually really brings it up, does he? I don't remember it in the first book. Like him bringing it up as if it's a big deal, where she's like, oh, yeah, it's a done deal. Like, our parents have arranged this.
Had they?
I don't know. I think that it's something she makes up.
I do too. I think that she just made that up in that moment to throw Grace off, because she probably thought Grace would never be like ballsy enough to bring it up to Jackson.
Yeah, maybe it's like a jealousy thing. Like she wants her in like a moment of weakness. And she's like, oh yeah, we hook up all the time.
Yeah. Here's the thing, right? These are like 16, 17-year-olds. I feel like a lot more texting would be taking place. Like the whole time that Grace is freaking out, like, where's Jackson? Where's Jackson? I gotta find Jackson. Is he okay? I'm like, you've got a phone, girl. Text him. If you want to see him, don't go running down the hallway for him. Text him. Say, hey, come to my room. Hey, are you okay? Like, I feel like she just needs to pick up her phone and quit trying to run down the hallway. I don't know.
Especially when she's like got stitches to rip or not stitches to rip, as the case may be. And like, what did you think of Macy turning Jackson away at the door? Like, despite knowing that Grace really wanted to speak to him, she like pretended it was Uncle Finn.
She said that she invited him in.
Yeah, after she said that she was asleep.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
What guy would be like, yes, I need to see her?
Maybe she was suspicious of him. Maybe she was. Maybe she didn't quite know what had actually happened.
Well, she did say that was the only thing that she knew, was that she was definitely hit with a piece of glass in her artery. That was the only thing she knew for sure. She was like, I don't know the rest. Everything else was kind of up in the air.
Right. I wasn't there.
So, yeah, I mean, he has kind of given her a reason to be suspicious. I mean, at this point, Jackson has been at many cases of like damage to property.
Yeah.
So I'm like, maybe he's like, are you just a bit of a vandaler? Like, you're just breaking glasses and stuff. Like, I probably shouldn't let you near her, just in case you don't have a handle on yourself.
Yeah, especially since at this point she knows that they kissed. She knows that they kissed, and then this terrible thing happened. So yeah, she might have just been trying to protect Grace, or Jackson was just kind of being an ass when he came to the door, like he was in the hallway, and she might have just been like, yeah, she's asleep.
Or like, every room that you've been in so far, you've destroyed with your earthquake. This is my bedroom, so piss off. Make sure that my beaded curtain is protected at all costs.
Yes. One little thing that made me laugh was Leah tells Grace that everything here is designed to kill you in 10 seconds or less. And Grace said, I thought that was Australia. And then Leah said, anywhere that begins and ends with A. And I was just like, Alabama!
Is that true? Is that true in case of Alabama? I don't know much about Alabama.
Mark's family's from Alabama, and his uncle like lives on a mountain and shoots guns and makes beef jerky. And I wouldn't want to get lost in.
It sounds like a docuseries.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to get lost in the woods of Alabama, because some rednecks would definitely skin me and wear me as a coat. So yeah,
That is a reference. That's a reference I know. Alabama, to me, like just the word, sounds made up.
Alabama.
It sounds like they came across this, like, I don't know anything about the terrain of Alabama except for the fact that you've just told me that there's woods and there's mountains. So I'm just okay. They've arrived at what would be Alabama, and they go, "What should we call it?" And you're like,
Alabama.
They're just like making up sounds, and then went, "Sure, let's write that down." How would you spell that? Alabama.
Alabama. Let us know, guys, our listeners, if you live in Alabama, do you agree with our description? I know that everybody who lives in Ohio knows that it's either corn or really gross city. I think that's a pretty even mix. Corn or gross city.
And my husband seems to think that Ohio came from just people just going walking at each other. Ohio!
Ohio!
And that's just how the name just developed and evolved into Ohio.
Yeah, I don't think that we don't get briefed on where the names of any of our states come from. I don't think that that's anything.
That's sad. I mean, every place in England has, it's called etymology, where like the evolution of the word. And they've every time you go onto like Wikipedia for the town, it like says where the name came from.
I'm an idiot. You said, I'm like, isn't that the study of bugs? Oh wait, no, that's entomology.
That too.
On that note, do you want to get into spoilers? All right, we've got quite a few spoiler topics here. I had a few, and then Amber, you seem to have added a lot more. So, arterial bleed. How you feeling about that?
It's a bit uncanny for the fact that is exactly how her parents died. Leah.
Yeah. Very, very, very suspicious. I
mean, both of them at the same time had exactly the same injury.
Yeah,
which both died before the ambulance got there.
You know, we learn that Leah killed her parents, but we don't learn how. And I always thought like that it was that she caused a car crash, but did she like bite them? How did this, I mean, she's a vampire, but these vampire kids, like other than Jackson, they don't seem like they're that powerful. What did she do to stop a moving car and cut Grace's parents' arteries? Like what? I'm very
and it not be suspicious to local law enforcement, because car accidents wouldn't have the same injuries on both people within the car. And how was she to make sure that Grace also wasn't in the car? Like, she had to have staked them out.
Yeah. I mean,
which is even creepier.
Yeah. I mean, she is pretty psycho. Like, we don't get a lot of the psycho until the end, but when she's actually like with the book and everything and in the tunnels, like she is a straight up psycho.
And it wasn't even if like the you know those like tropes where they work out that they were the person that killed their crushes or some like main character's parents, that they realize like, oh, it was me, I was the one that killed that person, I didn't even know who they were, or I didn't know the circumstances relating to who she was in comparison to them, kind of thing. It was straight up, she murdered them so that she turned up at Katmere, and then still carried on to have like normal conversations with her and not let anything slip or like seep through her face. Like, she has to be a special sign of psychopath to not show any inkling of what she's done. Like, there's no remorse or anything.
I mean, that Hudson D must be good though.
I mean, it is. I know from experience.
Like that's. I mean, she's got to get him back. She needs it. She is. willing to
But she's not even going through like the trauma of it as well. Like if she was that desperate to like see him again and she did awful things so that it would happen, but she had to do them regardless of how she felt about it, she would still feel guilt. She would still, like, it doesn't matter that she had to do anything to get him back. She would still feel the remorse of killing them. But she doesn't.
No, she had to be psycho before they got together.
Exactly. And yeah. And it only happened like a month ago. So she's not even had like a chance to get over it if she has. So it's still fresh in her mind. And she's still not crazy. Like crazy.
How did she get away from the school? Like that, I mean, I know they move fast, but if that were the case, that vampires could be leaving the school like every night and getting back.
I want to know how she knew about Grace, because nobody else knew about Grace. So she had to find out about Grace, find out who she was in comparison to Jackson, find out what that meant for getting Hudson back, and then also find out where she was living and find out exactly how the best way to get her to Katmere was. How did she know that by killing her parents, Grace had no other option than to go to Katmere? Because she could have quite easily just gone, I'm going to go and live with my aunt in Savannah, Georgia.
The only explanation could have been that she had some ties to the bloodletter. But even then, I don't know. I'm trying to make it make sense in my mind.
I hope that we get it in court, because there is that like just like I don't want Tracy to have just written it in and then not. I mean, I don't need all book endings and finales to have all of like the loose ends tied, but I feel like that's a major plot point to not discuss.
Yeah. And I mean, we definitely see the book evolve like in 2 and especially 3. Mm-hmm. I think that the first book, Tracy didn't know how big it was going to be. It was just like, oh, this is a fun little vampire story. And then because during the interview where she answered some of our questions, that German interview that she did, she had mentioned that Entangled Teen approached her about writing a vampire story. So she was approached about writing it. And, you know, if you get approached about writing something, I mean, you might have ideas, but I can't imagine being told, like given a project like that.
Yeah, like a brief.
Right. But as opposed to coming up with an idea all by myself and just going with it, like she was given a topic and asked if she wanted to write about it. So, I mean, I'm sure that it got bigger than what she wanted. And she's written so many books that it was probably one of those things where she wasn't super attached to that first book. But then once she started getting into the characters and realizing how loved they were, I'm sure things started really evolving from there. And that's why there's so much more baking within the second and third book. The third book being like, I got like Harry Potter vibes. I mean, there was so much complexity. So I don't really expect her to tie up all the loose ends from the first book. I think that a lot of the things just are because they are, and unfortunately we'll just have to accept them if we want to actually enjoy the remainder of the series, because I have a feeling that not everything will end up getting tied up.
Yeah. And I mean, it's going to be like Harry Potter anyway, where people have their own fan theories about certain things. Like they come up with, like, if you think about it, this happened like this, and then this happened like this because of this. And then everybody loses their minds in the comments. And it's a world that's completely finished. Like, she's put stop on. She's still talking about the fandom in like Fantastic Beasts and things like that. But there are still fan theories that are like coming out of the woodwork, where people have watched the films and read the books so much that they read between the lines. And I obviously think that that's also going to happen, because there's only so many things you can get out in 4 books. And despite having the novellas coming out, there's still only 4 books.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I like that, though. I like the fan theories. I like when the audience is sometimes even more creative than the author at some points. And I can only hope as a writer, like, I've got a book coming out January 14th. I can only hope that my audience will try to piece together things. And I would love, as an author, to be able to find like a Reddit someday where people think of something that I didn't even think of. And then I'm like, wow, that's a great idea. And then I could write it into the story. Like, I feel like if the books were written farther apart and Tracy had more time to really digest what the audience was saying, she could have had plenty of source material just coming out of fan theories. It's just she wrote these books very, very fast in order to get them out, which, you know, no problem for me there, because I love being able to just see those release dates only a couple months apart. That is...
Yeah, and in fact, we want caught a little bit faster, don't we?
Yes, absolutely. It should have been... it would have been out this month, and it had to get... Damn it, because of the paper shortage. But anyway, got a little off track there.
We've only done 1 point on our spoilers.
Let's see. Macy fixing the bed sheets. That was like my big red flag, like, about Macy, because I kind of had it in my head that Macy was, maybe she was normal, you know, maybe there was nothing wrong with her. It was just a couple other students. And this, like, really was the thing that made me realize there's something up with Macy.
See, I feel like that would have been a good segue into Macy explaining a little bit about herself and a little bit about the world without going crazy. But instead, she really upped the gaslighting, and that's why I think I distrusted her a lot in this scene. Because Grace noticed it, and there was no way to explain it away. And Macy could have just gone, magic, and then Grace would have went, shut up, and it would have been over. But instead, she's like, oh, no, I did it when you weren't looking. You were like, you closed your eyes for like half a second over there. And Grace knows for like a full well, like, she didn't. And it made me uncomfortable that Macy couldn't even have a joke with her, knowing that was the easiest explanation and also the funniest and the most, like, just a throwaway one. Like, just go, oh yeah, I did it with magic. I did it with magic. And Grace would have gone like, like, piss off.
Right,
whatever. Like, stop taking the piss.
Yeah.
But she didn't, and it just made me really uncomfortable because it could have been a really easy way of Grace having that conversation with her.
But, I mean, Grace is on high alert right now, so maybe that would have been the thing that really tipped her off, though, at the same time. I agree, though. I think that Grace would have just dismissed it. Because I was like,
I'm a wizard. I'm a wizard at changing bed sheets, or I'm a wizard at making a bed. Like, that would have been really funny.
Yeah.
Really, really funny. And even then, like, that would have given her an out for the truth. And it would have given her an out for the conversation so that Grace didn't push any further. It gave an open end to both of them instead of just, like, lying. Because if she had kind of said, like, I'm a wizard at making beds, like, look. And she could have shown her something that wasn't necessarily magic. But it would have been fun and it would have diffused the situation. But it didn't. And it made her more concerned, more suspicious.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like Macy's gone from kind of avoiding the truth to just straight lying in this chapter.
Yeah.
Like, she's not just dancing around the truth. She is absolutely lying in this chapter, trying to hold on. Because, I mean, it's got to feel almost like, you know, she's starting to lose a grip because Grace is finding out more and more and more. And it's her job to make sure that Grace doesn't find everything out. And maybe she's only doing it for her dad. You know, maybe her dad told her to. So she might just be trying her hardest to keep a grip on things, even though she can feel the threads being pulled from her hands.
And yet with, like, free will and everything, she could have just gone, do you know what, this is a conversation that we need to have in the morning. And she could have just gone and put Grace to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So could Uncle Finn. So could have Marissa. Like, they woke her up to check on her well-being and her welfare and to have a conversation with her, and then didn't tell her any of the details and just gave her more questions. Like, if you woke up on a hospital bed, you would be exactly like Grace. You would be like, no, I didn't. I did not do that. That wasn't how it happened. That can't be the explanation for why I'm here. Why am I in a bedroom and not in a hospital wing? If I nicked my artery, why is only the school nurse dealing with me? Why am I not like being like in surgery? And I feel like the only reason that she's not asking these questions is because she's been drugged.
Yeah. I mean, Grace isn't very strong-willed in Crave. Like, she starts to get it back in Crush, and then she's like, you know, she's very independent in Covet. Well, it's Hudson. It's Hudson that does it to her. She's way too sheepish in Crave, which, you know, she's gone through some trauma. Her parents have died. It makes sense. But I feel like she just lets way too much slide. And I mean, it's really
like the beginning of a horror film. It's the beginning of a horror film. Like, you wake up in the middle of the night, 2 a.m., which is a very strange time to wake up. Like, surely they would have just gone, okay, we'll let her sleep until the morning. But no, they make her wake up at 2 a.m., and then they won't tell her anything. And it's like, why did you bother waking her up? Except for your own reassurance that she's okay.
Yeah, and you know, the whole thing went down at 5. That's when they went out. She said 5 in the afternoon is when they went to Jackson's tower, which means, you know, we'll say that it took, you know, 30 to an hour, 30 minutes to an hour. So we'll say like 6 p.m. the incident happens. That's an astronomical amount of time in between.
To just be missing. Yeah.
Like,
and then Jackson's not even there when she wakes up, and won't talk to her either when she does chase him down. And it's like, okay, so the one person that was there with you doesn't want to talk to you. Like, I would be screaming by now. I'd be like, okay, where are the cameras? Who's filming me? This is creepy. I don't like it. I want out.
Yeah.
For all she knows, she could have been like date raped.
Right. Yeah. If I were her, I would have been suspicious of Jackson. Like, she's all like, oh, is he okay? But I mean, he was not acting right. He's telling her to run away.
No. He was telling her to run away, and her nurse told her to not look at the bandages or beneath the bandages at any cost. Even so much so that you couldn't have a shower without having some plastic thing over the top of it. Like,
yeah, and Grace calling her on the stitches too.
Yeah, like I don't like it.
It's like the people that you're supposed to trust, you know, the nurse, the headmaster, your uncle, cousin, people that you should trust are the ones who are lying to you the very most. At least Jackson isn't doing that much lying. I mean, he really isn't. And I feel like part of the reason why he's trying to stay away from her is, for one, he knows that the mating bond is established.
Especially now they've kissed. And I think that's why he was like, you do realize what we did last night was kiss. But then I think that when I was reading it first, the way all the way through first, I was thinking, oh, he bit her and now he knows exactly what he's done and he's screwed up.
Same.
But then I was like, was it just the kiss? Was the kiss that important that now she has a target on her back? Like, I don't understand it. She had a target on her back before. Is it his mum and his dad, do you think, that he was referring to?
It might be. I mean, he is... I would say that the mate of anybody who is like a prince, I mean, that's automatically, especially if you're a human, that's automatically probably going to be an issue. That's why...
Yeah, do you think that like they're like the warlocks? So when warlocks choose to have a human mate, or witches, I suppose, when they choose to have a human mate, they have to like rescind their powers. What do you think the equivalent is for the other factions?
Yeah, because it's not like you can... No, I think that with Grace's parents, I think he chose to. I think that Grace's dad... I thought he chose to...
No, Finn said, like, when you choose a human mate, you have to give up your powers. As far as I remember.
Yeah, that could be the explanation there, is that Jackson doesn't want anyone to know. I mean, but at this point,
everyone knows. He was all like Pop-Tarty, I'm not hungry for Pop-Tarts in the cafeteria that morning. And then all of a sudden, because it was that morning. Again, still the same day.
Yeah, we're like 4 episodes into this day.
Yeah, and he's acting really strange already after one day. And then he's like, oh yeah, I've put a target on your back now. He's like, what?
And the
Did you not think that people thought that you were into me when you were eating Pop-Tarts?
Yeah, and the whole school has to know, because if the earthquakes if they come from getting an emotional response out of Jackson, this will be the second time that that's happened in like this day, because it happened in the art room, which happened on this same day. And then it happened again up in his tower, which, by the way, I had to make a note of this. Where are Jackson's earthquake powers in the other books? Like during the battle, the big battle at the Unkillable Beasts Island, where are Jackson's earthquake powers in all of these times when the Ludaire's tournament? Like, there are so many times when earthquake powers would be hella convenient. Does he just need to be making out to use them? Like, no, because he's used them when he's mad.
Yeah. I mean, there's also the point where he has to have emotions to be able to have those reactions. And then, I mean, half of the books, he doesn't have a soul. Does that mean that he can't access those heightened emotions?
That could be it, because I mean, he has very small glimpses of emotion, and then they disappear really, really quick in the next few books. Does he do it at all?
But then he
Crush?
surely, because he also knows in Crush, like, Hudson is literally talking to her and he's very angry about it and very jealous about it, and he still doesn't show any earthquakes. That would have been a hella useful trick to have, is to create earthquakes, but he just doesn't.
Maybe he doesn't.
He just blimps.
Maybe he doesn't want to lose control in that way. Like, he doesn't want to look weak, and let the whole school know that he's losing control, because maybe he doesn't
look weak.
Right. Well, I mean, he doesn't want to look like he's slipping like his brother, because his brother, you know, the whole thing with his brother is that everybody thought that he was evil. So maybe he doesn't want people to think that he is the same as his brother.
Maybe. I think this is the most we've ever fan theoried.
Right. We're dissecting a lot.
We're jonesing for court.
Yes. Well, and we get a Guide to Katmere Academy this month. I believe that comes out on the 9th. I think.
Okay. We got a week.
I believe. Yeah. I think it comes out on the 9th. I can't remember offhand. But I mean, maybe we'll get, I'm excited. That's only going to be ebook, but I think that when we get the Guide to Katmere Academy, we should maybe do like either a bonus episode or do an episode just kind of dissecting that. Might be fun.
Yeah, sure.
Do like, maybe when you're here.
Yeah.
That could be like a bonus episode.
Eating corn chowder.
Yes, we'll eat clam chowder and Pop-Tarts and, what was the other thing?
Waffles,
Ben & Jerry's, tacos.
You gotta have Cherry Garcia and all the other foods that are mentioned. A lot of cookies, apparently. Cookies.
Yes. All right, let's go ahead and get into our fan questions and fan polls. If I can get my darn thing to pull up. Did you happen to see everybody's costumes for Halloween? All of the different cosplays?
I didn't. I mean, I did in the like young adult fiction group and the Wolfpack Facebook group. But I hadn't seen any on the Instagram because I died all weekend.
Oh, that's right. You weren't feeling well. Yeah.
No, I was not hot at all. I woke up on Saturday, did about 3 hours of work. My husband came in and he was like, "What's the matter?" And I burst into tears. I was like, my head. And he was like, "Just go to bed. And I'm like, I can't. I'm too important for the existence of the universe.
Not to be mean, but you're never that important.
No, I noticed when I took an entire week off and nothing happened.
All right. So we've got fan poll and fan question this week. Did you see what they were?
I didn't. I don't know what they were.
Oh, good. Well, that's perfect. That makes it a mystery. Okay, so this week, it's normally Amber who comes up with these, but I was motivated this morning. So I asked, when you first read Crave, did you think that Jackson was the one causing the earthquakes? Because Amber and I talked about it in last week's episode, and we had the incident with the branch breaking and the wind, and then we had the incident with the window exploding, and I thought, and I know Amber also thought, that there was something else like attacking the school, or like there was some other force. I didn't think that it was Jackson doing it.
Well, I thought it was Grace.
Oh,
I thought because every time it happened, it was during one of her most heightened emotions.
That makes sense.
She was scared. She was having a great time playing with snowballs. She was in the tunnels and was terrified and feeling very vulnerable. And she was having the time of her life macking out with Mr. Vulnerable.
And that would make sense because she is an earth elemental.
Mm-hmm.
It would make the most sense for her to be causing them.
But yeah, so like genuinely, I thought that it was her. But then during the kissing scene and he looked angry, that's when I was like, oh, maybe it's an external thing.
Yeah.
It was only then that I was like, oh, it must be something else, because he wouldn't be angry at her showing powers, because he'd be like, oh my goodness, we're so twinsies.
Well, what do you think the audience thought? This was a hard one.
Was it Uncle Phil?
Was it Uncle Phil? It's Uncle Phil. Every time, you know what? Every time that we can't answer something,
it was Uncle Phil.
It was Uncle Phil. So, when you first read Crave, did you think Jackson was the one causing the earthquakes? 48% said yes, they did think that Jackson was the one causing them, but 52% said no, that they didn't think that it was him.
Ooh, did you put a question card so we could find out who they thought that it was?
No, I did that on the second. I know.
Okay.
I should have asked that. And then for
send it to us in a message. We want to know.
Who did you think it was? Message us at Crave Series Aesthetic and let us know. Okay, so our actual fan question was, would you have pulled off your neck bandage to peek underneath?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, hell yeah.
Absolutely. Like, the minute that the nurse said that she didn't use stitches, I would have been like, no, I'm suspicious. Where's a mirror?
Yeah, you're acting super sketchy. I'm looking.
Because it's not even that. Like, she's like, is it not like Grey's Anatomy? She knows enough about like Grey's Anatomy and like biology to know that an arterial bleed is not something that you can just fix with a Hello Kitty plaster.
Yeah. Well, it seems like we've got really passionate answers. Most people said yes, definitely yes. 1,000% yes, absolutely. I'm nosy, so I would have taken it off without thinking. Yes, definitely yes. But the two no's, we got one person said, I think no. And then the other person who said no, really good reasoning here, said no, and it drives me crazy when characters do things like that. Leave your wounds and IVs alone, which, you know.
Yes.
At the same time, I get you. Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, if it was like a cast, like maybe I would like, if I broke my leg or something, I would leave a cast. But if it's like a simple plaster, I can't imagine that it would be so bad that if I took it off, that I wouldn't be able to either replace the bandage or find another one. But the fact that the fact that the nurse was being so sketchy about it would be the reason why I would look under it, If it was look, the stitches is still healing, please don't take it off. This is when you can take it off. Like, everything she said about it was not how I would experience a wound to heal. So therefore, I would have been immediately suspicious as to what was underneath it. And the fact that everybody was like, yeah, you got nicked in the neck by a bit of glass, that would have made me also suspicious. So not only, like, the wound itself, how it happened, who, like, cared for me, and also how it was healing.
Have you ever had a wound like that you've had to dress and take care of?
My dogs.
No, I mean on your body.
No, not on myself. I have broken my arm and had a cast, and I told the nurses that it fell off because the swelling went down, when actually, in reality, I had a massive itch and I needed to get it off.
She Incredible Hulked it off.
Yeah, so I pulled it off. But yeah, so I've not done anything like wound related, but I have done like stupid things like take a cast off. Please, guys, don't take your cast off because you have to go back to the hospital and have it recast. It's awful. The itch will still be there next week when you have to have your cast again. So, yeah.
Make yourself,
and I think that
get a little pipe cleaner and shove it in there.
I think what I wanted was to change the color of the cast.
Like, while I'm here, can we change this?
Yeah, I had green first, and then I went back to have it recast because I'd obviously taken my other one off, and I couldn't put it back on. I tried so hard to put it back on again. And then they were like, what color would you like? And I was like, I'd like purple this time.
I've never hurt myself badly. I've broken toes, and I
walked into a tree last week.
Oh, well, yeah, I poked a hole in my eye. But that sounds really bad, and it hurt really bad. But in terms of like, there was no gore or anything. It's not like I had a stick shooting out of my eye or anything. That was actually some of the worst pain I've ever been in. I've torn my trap, which is the muscle that connects your shoulders and your neck. It's like your trapezius. It is in a kind of triangle shape.
Super, super sexy muscles in men.
Yes, I tore that. And that was very painful. But the only wound that I've ever had that I've needed to dress was my C-section. And that was very much the same. Don't touch it. Keep it covered. But that was not stitches. That was staples. And boy, oh boy, do staples hurt coming out. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I would have. I think I would have been nervous to look under it. And I think that I would have only taken it off if I thought that I could put it back either in a way that looks like it came off accidentally, or if I could replace it where it didn't look like I'd taken it off at all. Which, if it's freshly put on there, it's probably easier to make it look like, you know.
You take it off and then you wake up in the morning and it's just on the side of your pillow and you're like, oh no, it came off while I was asleep.
There's blood all over your pillow. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, do we have anything else to add? There were no songs in these chapters, I noticed. I've been trying to get all of the songs in order from the book series. Every single song mentioned, I want them all in order. And yeah, there were no songs this episode.
There were no songs, and the only food that was mentioned was something that I'm kind of dreading being added to the list.
Corn chowder.
Ew. Like, why? Like, is it just sweet corn soup?
It's like, it depends on how you make it. You can do a Southwest corn chowder, and that's a little spicier. Or you can do it. Do you have cream corn?
No,
you don't have cream corn. Okay,
we have sweet corn in very limited things. Then they're not a commodity, and they're also not a surplus item.
Do you have cornbread?
No,
you don't have cornbread. Oh my God, we're gonna have.
No, we don't.
Do you have chili?
Like chili con carne chili?
Like chili with just beans and meat and.
No. We have chili con carne, which nobody really eats.
You're going to have chili and cornbread while you're in Ohio. That's an Ohio staple. So,
and skyline chili.
Ew, that's a different kind of chili. Chili that goes on a chili dog and chili spaghetti is way different than chili that you just eat.
You're just making this up.
I know. Chili that goes on a chili dog is like a meat sauce. And then chili that you eat.
Nobody wants meat sauce.
You're going to eat it. You're going to eat it and you're going to like it. You probably won't. I don't like it.
Okay.
All right.
We were talking about Halloween candy, and I've got to try some Whoppers. Apparently,
they're just malted milk balls. There's nothing special about them. They just have a fun name because cheeseburger from Burger King is also called a Whopper.
Oh yeah, we have big Whoppers.
Yeah, so we've got Whoppers, and then we have the candy Whopper.
The way you say Whopper makes my heart hurt.
Whopper.
Whop. It's like you say the H before the W.
Whopper.
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 Right.
On that note, guys, thanks so much for listening. Make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel. In the event that we ever have an issue getting things to stream to the different platforms, YouTube will always be a sure thing because it is separate from the podcast platforms. Not to mention, it would really be nice for us to be able to monetize this channel, because if we're able to bring money into the podcast,
more snacks.
Yeah, well, more snacks and more giveaways for you guys. So that means we'll be able to afford to do more fun things and give away more awesome Crave theme merch, because that's not items that we'll ever be able to sell. We don't want to infringe on any copyrights, especially Tracy's and Entangled Teens, because we respect them as artists, and you shouldn't infringe on copyrights unless given actual written permission to do so. But guys, thanks so much for listening, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.